Hey guys, what's up? Zijin Chang here, and this is the Chuwi Vi10. The Chuwi Vi10 is a strong competitor to the Microsoft Surface 3 that is $400 cheaper. Compared to the Surface, it has a lower screen resolution, lower brightness, and a slower processor. So, can you tell the difference? And if you can, is that difference worth an extra $400? Well, let's find out how the Chuwi Vi10 and its keyboard performs at around $200 in total. I highly recommend you buy the keyboard as well, but if you don't, there are many other options out there that give you a Retina display for just $30 more, like the Teclas X98 Air. But if you buy the Chuwi with the keyboard as a semi-productivity machine, it is a lot more worth it. So with that in mind, let's get started. The Chuwi Vi10 is a beautifully made tablet. The front and back of the device is encased in glass, and there is a metal band running around the tablet that looks very good. Doesn't matter if you're looking at it or picking it up, it looks and feels amazing. Except when it gets covered by fingerprints, which is all the time. And that's another reason to get the keyboard cover. You have to be careful with the tablet because the glass will be cracked much easier than a plastic or metal tablet. One thing to note is that the Chuwi isn't a very compact tablet. The bezels around the screen are large compared to iPads and Chinese tablets like the Teclas X98 Air. Compared to the Surface 3 though, it is similar in size. The Surface is wider while the Chuwi is taller. The Chuwi feels thick even though it's only 8.8mm. That is because there are no bezels on the sides to make it feel thinner. The Chuwi Vi10 also doesn't feel too heavy due to proper weight distribution even though it's at least 100 grams heavier than other tablets like the Teclas X98 Air or the Voyo WinPad A1S. The build quality of this tablet is through the roof, on par with other tablets like iPads and Surfaces, which are at least 3 times the price. The Chuwi Vi10 comes with standard buttons and ports, the power and volume button, MicroHDMI, a MicroUSB port which you can charge through. It also comes with 2 full-size USB ports as well. This is great as many other expensive tablets, including the Surface, only come with 1. At the bottom is the keyboard contact and the 2 magnetic holders that holds the keyboard to the tablet. You can attach the keyboard very easily. The magnetic contact for the Chuwi should also work for many other Chinese tablets. The keyboard accessory that I got with the tablet is a mixed bag. It's better and worse than its Surface type cover. Summed up in one sentence, the Chuwi's keyboard is much easier to type on, but the Surface type cover feels a lot more premium. The Chuwi keyboard's plastic feels kind of cheap, but at least the fabric feels nice to touch. However, the fabric picks up dirt very easily. You will need to clean it every so often. The Chuwi tablet and keyboard combo does not have a kickstand like Microsoft Surface tablets, but the fabric folds into a stand with only one position, which in my opinion is a little awkward. The Surface 3's 3-position kickstand is miles ahead of the foldable cover. The best part of the keyboard are the keys. The keyboard is surprisingly easier to type on than the Surface keyboards because the keys have more travel, similar to the Asus T100 or the Acer Aspire Switch, but the keys themselves are smaller than the Surface's keys. The touchpad is about the same size as the Surface 3 or the Acer Aspire Switch in terms of responsiveness. However, it's much easier to use the touchscreen than the small touchpad. They come with gestures that make it much easier to use the small trackpad. One thing to note is that the keyboard cover turns the screen off when you close it, which is good because then you don't have to use the button all the time. Microsoft coined the words lapability to describe how easy their tablets were to use on the lap. The Surface's kickstand/keyboard combination was always awkward to use on the lap, as the Surface kept on falling backwards. What about this tablet? Well, not surprisingly, also difficult to use on the lap. It feels awkward because of the stand, and I don't recommend using this on your lap at all. If you do want to, I recommend folding the keyboard backward to use as a tablet stand. The build quality of the tablet itself is amazing. I'm especially happy about the 2 extra USB ports, as they will certainly come in handy. The keyboard, however, is lower quality than the Surface's keyboards, but the typing experience on the Chuwi's keyboard is way better than the Surface keyboard. The screen on the Chuwi is below average due to the low resolution and brightness. The resolution is 1366 by 768, which gives a low pixel density below 200 ppi. When using Android, it looks extremely blurry, but on Windows, it's almost unnoticeable except in certain situations like text-heavy websites or ebooks. The screen itself is also not too bright, topping out at around 250 to 300 nits. Other tablets like the Teclas X98 Air 2 have maximum brightnesses topping out at 500 nits, just like the iPad Air. It's difficult to see this screen in direct but weak sunlight, but if you can find some shade, the screen is legible enough to do some work. The colors, however, are quite nice and surprised me with pretty good color accuracy and saturation. The glass isn't Gorilla Glass, but it's tough enough to avoid scratches, and combined with the keyboard cover should keep the glass pristine for a long time. As long as you stay in Windows, the resolution shouldn't bother you at all. The two side-firing speakers are very loud and are great for consuming media. While front-firing speakers would have been ideal, side-firing speakers are still better than rear-firing speakers. One thing to note is that the speakers are located exactly where your hands would be when you're holding the tablet in portrait mode. So if you do put your hands there, you're going to be blocking the speakers. But onto the speaker quality itself. The clarity and crispness isn't as great as the volume. Bass gets muddled a tiny bit, and at maximum volume, speech contains some buzzing sometimes. Overall though, these are one of the best tablet speakers I've heard overall.
That's what people say. That's what people say. I go on too many dates, but I can't make them stay.
When using the earphone jack, there is some buzzing that can be heard when there's nothing else going on. It's not audible when you're watching videos, listening to music, or playing games, but you can hear it when there are no other sounds happening. I believe this is the sound of the eMMC storage working, as there have been reports of the same thing happening with the Chuwi Vi10. There are numerous other tablets with the same processor and the same battery size, and they generally have been able to last around 7 hours of straight web browsing. Let's see how this one does. I first started the battery test in Android. I set the brightness to 250 nits and reloaded a web page constantly, and the tablet died after about 7.5 hours. I set the brightness to 250 nits and looped a video, and the tablet died after about 7 hours and 10 minutes. I then performed these tests in Windows and got largely the same numbers, except battery results were increased by about 10 to 20 minutes overall. In real life usage, I was able to use the device the entire day before it gave up the ghost after 12 hours with 8 hours in screen on time. This consisted mostly of web browsing, Microsoft Word, and Metro apps such as Mail, Maps, and Hyper for YouTube. In Android, I got about the same usage, except it took about 16 hours before the tablet died, which is better than Windows. This is a little strange as the battery tests I performed above indicate that battery life in Windows is better than Android. One indicator could be that Android's standby battery consumption is a lot lower than Windows. One thing to note is that it takes forever to charge this tablet. It took just about 5 hours to charge the tablet completely. I tried out the charger from my Kobo Arc tablet and it took about 4 hours, so the issue is probably a low amperage charger. These numbers are great for this tablet, and are in line or even a little better than other Chinese tablets, and are almost as good as the Surface 3. Unless you are an extremely heavy user, this tablet will get you through just about any day without an issue. If you are a light user, you can expect 2-day battery life from this tablet. This tablet comes with Android 4.4.4 and Windows 8.1. You can switch operating systems through the notification shade in Android and in the start menu in Windows. The Android experience is smooth to use, and the keyboard and touchpad are compatible with it as well. One thing though, the DPI isn't correct for the resolution and screen size, making the screen look blurry. It is hard to be productive in Android with this tablet, as Microsoft Word for Android isn't supported in any of Intel's chips. One more thing I disliked about the Android side was the amount of bloatware on the device. On the bright side, I could uninstall it without needing root. Games ran smoothly without stutter, and Antutu gave me a score of about 36,000. The Windows side of this tablet is a much more productive environment. Using Windows 8 with a touchscreen is an absolute pleasure. It is extremely smooth and fluid, and the large icons really make the low-res screen look just fine. Navigating through Windows 8 using the trackpad is pretty tough. The small trackpad combined with Metro is extremely difficult to use. Using the touchscreen is a lot easier though. The Z3736 chip is about powerful enough for Chrome with 5 to 6 tabs open, Word, Excel, and maybe email as well, with the occasional stutter, but nothing unexpected from an Atom chip. It is also about 25% less powerful than Intel's new Cherry Trail chips, so there isn't a huge performance improvement in the Surface 3. The tablet gets warm quite easily, but never gets hot. Comparing these benchmarks to the new Cherry Trail chip, the X7-8700, which is what is used in the new Surface 3, we can see that it isn't a huge leap forward from Bay Trail. I ran some light games such as Crysis. If you couldn't tell, that was supposed to be a joke. In all seriousness, I could run older Windows games at decreased resolutions, and all Windows App Store games without issue. In conclusion, if you get the keyboard accessory, you're probably going to be spending most of your time in Windows, and the hardware is fast enough for doing work like Office, email, web browsing, and even some light gaming. And if you don't, The Android side will be a lot more useful because of the many apps, and the user experience is also pretty stellar. The Chuwi Vi10 has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC, and Miracast, all of which work as expected, except Bluetooth range seemed to be a little shorter than usual. The MiniHDMI port will also allow you to connect to a TV, but I don't have one so I can't test it. Sorry about that. The cameras are both terrible, which is quite normal on many Chinese tablets. No more terrible than usual though. Just don't use them for anything other than video calls. Even Minecraft screenshots look less pixelated than pictures taken with this tablet. They are worse than the Surface 3's camera, but I hope you're not going to be taking pictures with either of these tablets. Pretty much the only tablets being used for pictures are iPads and Samsungs, which is still pretty dumb to me. Just pull out your phone, guys. So, could I tell the difference between the Chuwi Vi10 and the Surface 3? Well, kind of. The Chuwi's lower resolution stream was visible in some situations, but speed-wise I couldn't tell a huge difference. The Chuwi was a little slower when opening the, say, 9th Chrome tab, while the Surface 3 slowed down on the 10th or 11th Chrome tab. So there isn't much difference there. However, I could type much faster and more accurately on the Chuwi than the Surface, and there are more USB ports on the Chuwi. So, is the Surface 3 worth $400 more than the Chuwi Vi10? Well, in my opinion, definitely not. If you're thinking of buying the Surface 3, stop right there, click on the link below, and buy the Chuwi Vi10 instead. But wait, there is one group of people who should not buy the Chuwi Vi10 and should buy the Surface 3 instead. If you are a student and need to handwrite notes on a tablet, the Surface 3 has an active digitizer and a great pen that this doesn't. In that case, you're going to have to spend an extra $400 pretty much just for that feature. If you're debating between this and a Retina dual boot tablet, the only difference is the Retina display, and it's up to you whether you're willing to spend more for that display. However, if you're thinking of buying the Surface 3, I highly recommend buying this instead of the Surface 3 because the value for money you get from this tablet just cannot be beat. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Click subscribe if you want to see more videos like this and check out the other videos that should be popping up right about now.